Hi, my name is Jarosław Kotowski. I'm the co-founder and game director at Play of Battle. Here at Play of Battle, we have the ambition to create something really new and really exciting for people who play grand strategy games or RTS games for that matter. So the game takes place in contemporary times, and that's not such an obvious decision. We wanted to create something that will tell us more about the world we live in right now, about uh, all the conflicts that are all around the globe. And I think you cannot find anything like that on Steam. So we decided to combine the grand strategy part with RTS battles. I think that's a very unique combination, and that's something that a lot of players crave for. Obviously, we have series of games like Total War, but there are plenty of modes for Crusader Kings, etc., where you combine the grand strategy part with RTS battles, and I think that's something that players are expecting to get. So basically, we don't get that many strategy games, or for that matter, grand strategy games that are set in contemporary times. I think there might be few reasons for that. On the one hand, some developers may say it's like too soon for that. I mean, not enough time has passed since some recent events. On the other hand, I would say that those games can be like quite challenging, creating systems or game mechanics that would like to show how nowadays economy plays out, or nowadays international relations plays out, might be something difficult as well. Last but not least, I think there's some flock mentality among developers. So many World War II games have been created, and many more studios keep creating games that have already been created. We had the ambition to create something completely new. Therefore, contemporary times are the setting we decided to choose. Both Łukasz and Wojtek are working with me. Both of them are excellent designers. Both of them are responsible for the grand strategy part. And I'm really happy to work with them. I'm really happy to be able to create some really unique mechanics together with them.
My name is Łukasz. I'm the lead designer on the Play of Battle project, and my main focus is on system design and core mechanics in our game. One of the most important inspirations for our project is Victoria 3 by Paradox. Above all, I'm impressed by how the developers managed to create such an immersive world, one that feels like it's moving on its own, and we're merely stepping into it to take part. In the context of a real-time strategy, one of my favorite childhood games is the Dawn of War series. It was a pioneer of a type of RTS that focused on dynamic squad-based combat rather than the classic formula of base building and resource gathering. It prioritized map control and fast-paced battles. Modern economics is especially hard to represent because we now deal with multiple currencies and, more importantly, a global market. In most strategy games, relations between countries are treated as bilateral, one state interacting with another, but here, from the outset, we're dealing with a world market that all countries are involved in simultaneously. Creating the strategic map turned out to be a major challenge as well, because we moved away from the commonly used formula of dividing the map into regions. Instead, we focused on cities and the connections between them, and the quality of those roads and railways. This was key to showing just how important infrastructure is for troop movement and military logistics. And that naturally led to the question of scale. What should the scale of this map be? Which cities should appear, and which ones unfortunately need to be left out? It's always a compromise between simplicity and clarity of the map versus the desired strategic depth. A crucial part is that transition point. The moment when you go from the strategic layer to the RTS battle. Because we need to show that high-level units like brigades are now transforming into individual squads that we control during an RTS battle. This also ties into the ability to customize and swap out gear and modules for our units, since this system needs to support both layers simultaneously. My name is Wojtek. I'm a senior game designer on Play of Battle, and I'm mainly responsible for the strategic level warfare design. It might be a rather unconventional example, but one of my biggest inspirations is the Football Manager series. Even though it's a sports game, it actually has a lot in common with grand strategy games. In both, the player has to make crucial decisions before the match or battle begins, and then can only really watch the outcome unfold. What determines the player's success or failure in these systems isn't randomness or reflexes. It's simply the quality of decision-making within a well-designed game system. Designing games set in the modern world is particularly difficult because the world has become so complex. From my perspective, focused on war mechanics, one major factor is the extended range of effective firepower today. The huge role of artillery, drones, and reconnaissance. These are things that didn't exist in the medieval era and aren't represented in Total War-style games. Today, we have to place units with very different characteristics onto the battlefield and somehow integrate them into a cohesive system. The most demanding design task for me in Play of Battle was creating the strategic-level battle resolution system, a layer where the game determines the outcome of military engagements without the player jumping into RTS combat. Rather than adapting solutions from existing strategy games, we aim to design this system from scratch, hopefully approaching it in an innovating way. It's partially inspired by Gwent, the card game from The Witcher, because we use a battlefield divided into rows, with units in each row clearly defined and serving a distinct role. As a result, I think this battle board we've created effectively simulates how those units behave, and most importantly, helps the player understand why they're winning or losing the fight. To avoid repeating what Łukasz already said, I also believe that the biggest challenge lies at that intersection point, transferring units from the grand strategy layer into the RTS layer. From a scenario design perspective, it's very hard to predict what result the player will achieve in an RTS battle and how that should translate back into the grand strategy layer. We simply can't fully prepare for every possible outcome. That might result in situations where some RTS battles don't happen at all, depending on what the player does in the grand strategy layer. If they skip them intentionally, that's fine. But if they unintentionally miss out on half the content we've created, that's something that will weigh on our conscience.